Good morning. Good morning. It's a beautiful day in Anderson. I want to thank you all for coming out for this ceremony this morning. I told Johnny that we'd try to keep this thing short and sweet, and he said that's fine with me. So I'm Primus Mutri, by the way, and so I'm here to welcome you and to keep the program moving along. And so let me get to work. Let me first ask Johnny's daughter, Reverend Sherry Wilson. Is Sherry here? Sherry, would you give us an invocation, please?
Yes, I will.
Good morning. Let us pray. Most gracious God, we choose to look to you as we begin this day, because this is the day that the Lord has made, and we will rejoice and be glad in it. We thank you for this fellowship of family, friends, and community, and we ask you, Lord, to strengthen us, to restore us, to inspire us with your love and your grace, that we may pour out that same love to others. We ask, O Lord, that you bless our youth and cover them with your loving grace. Bless everyone who has participated in the making of this event, from the smallest of deeds to the most challenging and complicated. We thank Mr. Ryden for his vision and the obedience to follow that vision that led us up to this event today. And to every one of you who took the time out to come. And Father, we honor the man of honor today, my dad, and ask that you continue to bless him with your grace, your perfect peace, good health, and love. It is these things that we pray. And we all said, amen.
Thank you. In the spirit of keeping this short and sweet, let me bring to the podium the Mayor of the City of Anderson, the Honorable Thomas Broderick Jr. for a proclamation. Mayor?
Sir. Thank you very much. This is a great day to be here. I can tell you, as we get ready to kick off the Memorial Day weekend, how could you do it any better than to honor one of our own who has given so much to our community. As we look back over the years, we will remember how many folks came out here today as we stand here and look really in what is a sea of people. And it's quite a testament to the character and to the values that Johnny has exhibited throughout his entire life, as he has given back so much to our community, to each and every one of us that are here today, to our children and to our seniors. He has meant so very much, and I'm proud as the mayor of the city of Anderson to be able to be here today to speak briefly and to honor his presence. And I know he's a humble man, and this is difficult for him, but we so much very appreciate his character and all he has given to our community. As mayor of the city, I would like to present at this time a proclamation, which I will read from the city. It says, whereas Jumpin' Johnny Wilson is one of Anderson's most notable citizens and one of Anderson High School's most prominent graduates, and where he led Anderson High School to its last state basketball championship in 1946, and whereas Jumpin' Johnny Wilson was named Indiana's Mr. Basketball and an Indiana All-State while a three-sport standout in high school. And whereas Jumpin' Johnny Wilson was a celebrated four-sport athlete at Anderson College, earning many awards and accolades during his 3 years at the college, including setting long-standing school records. And whereas Jumpin' Johnny Wilson played for both the Chicago American Giants of the Negro Basketball League and the Harlem Globetrotters, and whereas Jumpin' Johnny Wilson invested in the lives of youth as he worked as a coach for a number of educational institutions, including Anderson College and Anderson High School. And therefore, a grateful community wishes to thank and applaud your life and accomplishments in making Anderson a better place and helping to shine a light on this fair city. I, Thomas Broderick Jr., Mayor of the City of Anderson, proudly congratulate Johnny Wilson on his many accomplishments on and off the basketball court and to his ending commitment to the city and its people, and do hereby proclaim this day, May 27, 2016, to be Jumpin' Johnny Wilson Day in this city of ours, Anderson. Thank you again, Johnny.
Thank you, Mayor Broderick. You know, I've known Johnny for too long. It's probably close to 50 years. You know, I hear everyone say how humble he is, and it's true. And I've always kind of wondered how a man could be so proud and humble at the same time. But Johnny is someone I've learned to admire and respect, and frankly to love as a friend and as Sherry said, a role model, a truly remarkable man. I'm happy to see so many friends and supporters here today. I can't name all of them. A few do come to mind. I don't know if there's anyone here from our 2 hospitals who gave us the initial funding to get this project started 1,000 years ago. But we certainly want to thank them. Thank you to our mayor again. Thanks to, where's Sally DeVoe from the Madison County Community Foundation, who handled all of our paperwork beautifully and kept us informed. Jim Alt, Carl Erskine, of course, a wonderful friend over here, looking like he's from Hawaii, Ken Redane, our sculptor, and you'll hear from him shortly. And I could just go on and on and on. I'll just say this, is that we had a number of people who gave to this project, and I really kind of view it as a family affair. The gifts, some were very large, some were little elderly women who came to the office and said, here's a check for $50. Here's a check for $25 for the Wilson sculpture. And so there was a real sense of love displayed by this community in terms of making this happen. And so you'll hear more about this work, this sculpture, in a moment. But right now, and again, in the interest of time, let me bring to the podium the principal of Anderson High, Eric Davis. Eric, where are you?
Right.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. First, I would like to welcome everyone to Anderson High School. We are honored to have you here this morning. I am honored to stand before you this morning to honor a former Anderson High School graduate who helped change the nation and Anderson, Indiana. Mr. Johnny Wilson has done so many great things throughout his life. He is an educator, devoted family man, mentor, athlete, statesman, and he has a passion for helping students and his community. Mr. Wilson helped to lead the Anderson High School basketball team to its 1946 state basketball title. Mr. Wilson, as you've heard over and over again, is a very humble man who believes in giving back to those who are less fortunate in our community. We are honored today to be able to show him how much Anderson Community Schools and Anderson High School appreciates his contributions to Anderson, Indiana. This sculpture will show students every day here at Anderson High School. If you work hard and never forget where you came from, great things will happen. Thank you, Mr. Wilson, for embodying all of the attributes of an Anderson Indian. We appreciate all of your hard work and dedication to Anderson. Mr. Wilson, thank you on behalf of Anderson High School for your lifetime of giving back to the community. Again, I just want to thank Mr. Wilson because he still comes to many games. He is still such a great man who does so many things here in Anderson, Indiana. At this time, I will turn it over to the Anderson High School Pep Band, and they will play Sweet Georgia Brown. Thank you.
I said earlier, this is a family affair, and so it's fitting that we have asked family members to come up and say just a few words about Johnny. The first family member is a niece and a powerful community leader here in Anderson, Miss Mildred Powell.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here. See my Uncle John looking dapper as usual. You know, we realized in our family that none of us would be here without the sacrifices that have been made by those who came before us. John was born in 1927, but he will tell you quickly, I am not an old man. With the end of World War I and post-World War I, racism was rampant and young black men appeared to be targeted. Does that sound familiar? John was the seventh of 11 children raised by Hazel and Randolph Wilson. Mama Hazel, as we called her, was that no-nonsense type of mother. It was a time when it took a village to raise a family. She was a firm believer in that concept. Uncle John's father was a quiet man. He was John's fishing buddy. But John showed early that he was inventive, and one of the things he did was design his own basketball rim out of wire that he found, and the ball was a sock with a rock in it. Although he had these talents, his father did not appear to pay attention to those skills. But what John found out after his father passed, one of his friends shared with him that his father said, you know, he's going to be a success as a basketball player. Uncle John continued to show skills in track, basketball, and baseball at a time when humiliation of blacks was rampant. John was unafraid. To you young people, don't be afraid. There are many people there to help and encourage him, including older brothers and some very strong sisters. Having a gift was not enough. So when discrimination came, when people treated him differently, he learned to walk in faith and live in his purpose and be the gentleman you see today. In 1946, when IU refused to recruit him because of his race, his mom reminded him that this family had been through hell and high water and had still survived. I wonder if Mama Hazel, as we called his mom, was thinking about John's great-great-grandmother, Mary Bowles Kaiser, who escaped slavery in 1860 at 55 years of age. For those of you who know the history, 1860 was 5 years before the Emancipation Proclamation. When my sister Mary and I found her, Mary, would you raise your hand? Where are you? Family historians, all okay. When my sister Mary and I found her again in 1880, she and 29 members of her immediate family were living in Spiceland, Indiana. Walking out of the Saratan Mountains of Stokes County, North Carolina, assisted by Quakers and Indians, was no small feat. But that explains the will, the fortitude, the determination that Don Wilson and this family have. Don't ever forget that. John was never selfish, nor did he mind helping others find their dreams. He embraced the idea that each one needs to help one. That hasn't changed. There were many young men from Anderson and all over the country that he encouraged to finish high school and go to college. He was a role model. He served the United States Army, never drank, never smoked, and was a model citizen. He has his bachelor's degree from Anderson University, his master's degree from Indiana University, and an honorary doctorate from Anderson University. It is therefore not surprising, as many have said, he's received a number of awards and honors. The last one he received was the Sagamore of the Wabash Award, one of the highest awards that are given in the state of Indiana. He stated when he received this award, I've received a lot of awards, but this one is the greatest of them all. Want to modify that, John? To my young relatives, John Wilson is an example of how to obtain success, not by giving up, not by copying what others do, but by being determined to succeed in spite of the obstacles. He's traveled many cities and many countries in the world, but Anderson has always been home. Uncle John, you are loved by this family and truly blessed by God.
Good morning, everyone. I'm John Wilson, Jr. I'm amazed at the support. I appreciate the support. I appreciate Anderson, another one of those Indiana towns that takes care of its own. To take the time while he's still here to honor. I can get emotional too, but I'll try to keep it together as well. My sister, Sherry, she took a lot of what I was going to talk about. So I guess it must be true. I had the same feeling. We're from the same family. And I'm sure Gina will, when she comes up, will echo many of the same things. But what I appreciate, life and all its connections. If it wasn't for the city of Anderson, Shadeland Elementary School, Anderson High School, his coaches, his teachers, pushing him to do the right things educationally and socially, if it wasn't for the players he coached at School 5 in Indianapolis, at Wood High School, which many of those guys are here, and I remember the names. It's amazing. The players that he coached at Malcolm X College in Chicago, me included. The players that he came back to coach and help out at Anderson University and Anderson High School, coaching the girls varsity basketball team here at Anderson High School, and spending some time with me at Lock Haven University as my assistant. What a change that was. He used to let me, he had me as his assistant once I graduated from college, came back to Chicago, and he had me as his assistant, and I can remember, you know, he never really yelled at referees if you ever saw him coach. I was yelling at the referees as an assistant, so when I became head coach and he became my assistant, you know, he was still wanting to yell at the referees, and I would have to try to calm him down. One quick story about, we played at University of Indianapolis, and you know, I was up on the officials, pretty good, and one of the officials knew Dad, and during a timeout, he walked over to him and he said, "Hey, you know what, you better tell your son to calm down." I'm like, and so Dad told me that, so he's telling on me? I don't think I calmed down. I stayed in the game. I didn't get kicked out, but I think I still gave him some talk. Anyway, so all those things, I would not be who I am without all of those things that he did and those things that he did for people. I would not have him going to Chicago. '75, September. In the cafeteria at Malcolm X College. I bought a can of Pepsi Cola as a token of saying I'm sorry for saying what I said to my wife, Jackie Wilson, Evelyn. Where's Jackie? One of my teammates and her were having a discussion, and she said something to him, and I said something back to her. Like, you know, you can't talk to him like that. I felt bad about it. I think the next day, bought her a can of Pepsi. And from 1975, from 1975 to now, I finished school. After I finished school, came back to Chicago. We got married. We'll be 36 years. 36 years in August. Anyway, so all those things, meeting her, then having my 2 boys and raising our 2 nieces, and them giving us 4 grandchildren, the 2 boys, 2 girls, the 2 girls, 2 boys. All those things because of his start here in Anderson and all those people that he worked with is the reason I am who I am today. I'd like to thank all those folks that came up with this idea and some of the people that I've heard talk about this statue, James Streeter, Early Dixon, Primus Mutri, my cousin Mildred, who, she truly is a force. Boy, she's given me some lessons. I'd like to thank Superintendent Thompson for agreeing to place this statue in the best possible location in this city that a statue could be. This is a great location. I think it'll be good for the students, for the faculty and staff, and the visitors that come to Anderson High School to see this statue and to reflect on what my dad has accomplished. It's been said, yes, he's humble. Class, the definition of class, and integrity. One, a lot of times people ask me different stories to, tell me some stories about your dad that you remember. And there's many stories, and I'm sure there'll be many more to come, from cleaning the shoes to be able to go with him to, while he refereed football games, to the freshest big boy after basketball games where I would say, hey, let's get this extra hamburger for my sister, when we got home. And then I said, oh, you know what? She probably didn't want it, so I ate it. To being up on the roof at Victory Field where the Indians played in Indianapolis on 16th Street, chasing down foul balls. But one of the most memorable stories I have, it goes to his integrity. He let me ride with him. I think his cousin Richard, he went to interview for athletic director position at Howard University in Washington, D.C., and I remember riding in the car, and I guess it was Highway 40 all the way to D.C. It wasn't the interstate, but we stopped at a gas station, got some gas and some other things, and took off. And he noticed that the person at the station gave him $2 back in change too much. On the way back to Indiana, he stopped at the gas station to return the $2. That's one of those stories that I always remember. That's why now when I see a penny, and you know about the penny, if it's heads up, good luck. If I see a penny tails down, I'll flip it to heads up, just because that's how I was brought up. A true leader, someone that doesn't, is being humble. He doesn't tell you, like many folks will tell you that they're leaders. True leaders don't tell you. He reminded me, his personality and the way he approached life reminded me of a book that I just recently read called Leaders Eat Last. And certainly he's one that eats last. He makes sure that everybody else is taken care of before he worries about himself. I'd like to also thank his good friend, Carl Erskine, who I've had the chance to talk with several times when I visit the city of Anderson. I appreciate everything that he has been able to do. Again, thanks for being dad. Thanks for creating my personality and approach to life. Thank you, Anderson, for your support. I'll always appreciate this crowd and the thoughts and the kind words that people tell me all the time when I'm here in Anderson. Thank you.
Good morning. This is the day the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. It is a beautiful day for a celebration for this man, my dad. They're right. Sherry and John said everything. I'm Gina. I'm the youngest. I'm known around the city of Indianapolis as Gina, as Sherry or John's little sister. I don't have a name. But I just want to say thanks to everybody for being here. This is awesome. I see some familiar faces out here, some old ball players when I was just a little kid. I see you, Murph, out there. But this is great. My dad is tremendous. He is unlike no other. He's a humbling man. like they said, he gives and he gives and he gives, and we appreciate that. I said last week on the radio show, one thing that my dad told us years ago, he made a promise to me, John and Sherry, that he would always be there, no matter what. He's just always a phone call away when he moved to Chicago, and that was true, and he's still here. It doesn't matter, whatever it is, we can call him just to talk to him, whatever we need. He's always there to supply that need for us, and we appreciate it. Speaking of how generous he is, I can tell a story of, I remember one time he picked me up to go to Chicago with a girlfriend of mine. And we were on the highway going, and that was it was on a Sunday. And I believe TLC used to do the top 20 songs of the week. And we were riding down the street, and you know that the radio didn't, went out after a while once you got down the highway. And we were trying to get to the number one song before, we got out of the area. He pulls over on the side of the road just so we could hear the music. So we sitting in the front seat and we bopping our head when it went off, we went on. But that's just how he is. He wanted to make sure that, our needs were supplied, no matter what they were. But we just say, thank you, Dad. We love you so much. All the kids love him. And that's another thing. This is great for him. This is wonderful. But I think he's really, really happy that all of his kids are here, all of his grandkids are here, and all of his great-grandkids are here. And we praise God for that. And we praise God for traveling mercies when they go back home later on today and tomorrow. So I just want to say thank you again, Dad. We love you, and keep up the good work. Now I want to introduce to you one of Dad's best friends' wife, Miss Lillian Smith. Her husband was Bill Smith, the coach of Broad Ripple High School, and he's no longer with us, but she is definitely here to represent for him.
Good morning, everyone. It is just an honor to be here to speak on behalf of my husband because of the relationship that he had with John, and John accepted me almost, I feel like family too. So I wrote down several things that I wanted to share with you, and I think the best way to get it across is to read it. I wasn't around Wood High School when John was coaching, or I wasn't around when he brought Smitty to Anderson to go to college. But I met John in the mid-'60s, and so much fun. There were stories that I could tell that I heard some of them as I walked up, someone was speaking. I said, oh, that's part of my speech. When I asked John what he wanted me to talk about, he said, oh, just tell them about Bill. In the mid-'60s, early '70s, I think it was 1970, they attended Indiana State together, working on their masters. And these men had so much fun together. I said, you're partners in crime. Whatever one does, the other one would cover up for him. But I think the best way to show how Smitty would feel is through letters that he wrote. I remember one was on John's 82nd birthday. And they had a party. I think Smitty wrote the letter, and J.W. Smith read the letter to you. So John probably remembers it well, but I wanted you to hear it. It's called Reflections of Our Coach by Bill Smith Sr. One of my earliest moments or memories of Coach is a glimpse of a tall, brown-skinned man with a soft voice, standing thousands of feet up in the air on nothing visible. That incredible vision was the result of what my imagination would do each time Coach drew himself up to his full 6 feet plus frame, place his hands in his front pocket and kick his right foot, look you straight in the eyes and say, "We can get it done." I think between the two men, they changed that phrase, "We can get it done," to Coach saying, "Okay, if I only have a nickel, I can borrow a dime." I continue to read. Now he steps into the 82nd year of his life. But then Coach's perspective is turn 82 around and it becomes 28. My coach remains as curious and zestful as a young man, maintaining a schedule that many people half his age would find daunting. He spends weeks traveling crowded highways of America in his van or car, en route to speaking engagements, golf outings, interacting with audience ranging from children, college students, coaches, and to people of all walks of life. Wherever Coach goes, there are always event appearances such as book signings, meeting with local officials, community groups, and old friends. But he always has time to share laughter and break bread with family and friends, old and new. He has been the recipient of dozens of recognitions for many of his accomplishments and takes due pride in being called Coach or Jumping Johnny Wilson, a serious student of the game of basketball, a scholar, and a very curious, open and open to learning, to new ideas and to questions. He is a connoisseur of sports events. Johnny Wilson living in this world means working to improve the quality of life on this planet. He is a man's man, an American man, a connoisseur of the truest, the word is truest sense of the word. His name is Johnny E. Wilson, the seventh child, born in the 7th month of the 7th day, the 27th year at 7 p.m. Wore number 7 on his jersey in high school and college. The one thing that troubled John the most was that he wasn't 7 feet tall. It says, "Thanks from all of us to you." That was presented to John on his 82nd birthday. Now, I have another note that Smitty wrote when John called him and asked him to be the speaker. Now, we had moved to Tennessee, and John called Smitty to ask him to be the speaker today. Well, Smitty was never one to put off doing what he could do today, never put off until tomorrow what he could do today. So when John asked him, he immediately got busy. I didn't know this at the time because Smitty passed in 2014, and here it is almost a year and a half later. But Smitty was going to be ready for this day. I found notes that Smitty wrote that he would have delivered today to you. And they were just words or phrases scribbled on a scratch piece of paper. But Jean and I looked at it, and this is the message that Smitty would have said today. And we know it's in part because Smitty would probably be up here talking forever. He said, "It is indeed a joy and honor to be here as a representative of so many men and women to pay tribute to the Lion of the Den. I would like to take the opportunity to personally thank you for traveling through life as my guide. It has been and continues to be a very honorable journey, and through sports, I have learned the best values of life itself. Coach was a great motivator, for players. He stayed with me and many others through good times and tough times. Coach, your legacy of giving back and promoting racial and ethnic harmony through example will live forever, and this is true. May the presentation of this statue of our coach, Johnny Wilson, illuminate the parts of us that long for abundant joy, inner peace, ageless wisdom, and healing force of love. I would like to thank all of you for your love and support of our coach, Jumping Johnny Wilson. That was the message for today. I know the roads that Smitty and John traveled were many. They were full of joy, some sorrow, and I believe I used to think fantasies, but I see many of them have come true. I have been a witness. But whatever it was between Smitty and John remained. There were never farewells or goodbyes. So I know they were best of friends, and they had each other's back. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is Jeff Janess here, a family friend? John Pistol couldn't be with us today. He was called away on a business appointment. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Thanks so much, Primus. It's a real honor to be here, stand in for President Pistol. He was called away this morning for a funeral. One of the key trustees at Anderson University passed away untimely, a gentleman by the name of Steve Lewis, who actually played at Anderson University, was a very good player, probably 25 years after Mr. Wilson played. And so I know our thoughts and prayers are with President Pistol as he ministers to that family. As I was interviewing President Pistol about what he was thinking about saying this morning, we both launched into rapid fire memories of our time at Anderson High School together playing for the Indians, a couple decades after Johnny Wilson played there, and took them to that improbable journey to the state championship. And we remembered continually looking in our rearview mirror as young high school kids at the larger-than-life legend of Johnny Wilson, which I think in great part propelled our team to a 2-year period of 54 wins and 4 losses, really fun period. And it's a natural thing, I think, to imitate excellence. And Johnny was and is a role model worthy of emulating, and we certainly tried to do that at that time. But we came up short in the prize and didn't quite get there, made it to the state finals, but didn't bring back the trophy that he brought back for us in 1946, and that team at the great job that they did. Everyone knows those stories. Those are just so part of our DNA in Anderson, and we're so proud of that. But I'm wondering if you did know that sandwiched in between his magical high school career and just before he played professional ball, and then also with the Globetrotters, and then had a great coaching career after that. Johnny was welcomed to the Anderson University campus, Anderson College at that time, and played basketball at a time when African Americans were not necessarily welcome on the larger campuses around the country. And that was not an issue at Anderson College, and he was welcomed there and transformed that place. And President Pistol recounted some of the things that have happened since that have been as a result of the great ambassador that Johnny Wilson has been for us. I'm a friend of the university, have close contacts there, and was asked by President Pistol just to say a few words relative to this pilgrimage we've had as players at Anderson High School and then at Anderson College, always looking right behind us at what took place and the high bar that was set as Johnny set new heights in both of those places. At that time, when Johnny was playing at Anderson College, you might not know also that the games were quickly moved to the Wigwam, the old Wigwam, which could seat about 3,000 to 4,000 people. And night after night, the Wigwam was packed out with people. And it would not just be people locally who knew of him, but people who had heard of him who didn't know anything about Anderson High School necessarily, or Anderson College, or even the Church of God, or whatever. They came on that great hearing about this player that was doing magical things. And it was just released in a book that Anderson University has put together. I've got it with me. That is a chronicle of the 100 years of the history of Anderson College and Anderson University. And a prominent piece in there is about the transformational representation that Johnny Wilson has made, the impact that he's made on that place on the east side of this community. And I think you would all, especially those of us local, certainly step up and say that Anderson University has had such a prominent place in our history, and this man has had a prominent place in the history of that school in a way that has transformed it. There's a picture in here. If you want to see it afterwards, come up, because I'm really jazzed about it. But there's a picture of Johnny in a practice session going one-on-one with someone. There's an assistant coach to the side, and the assistant coach is literally looking up at the bottom of his shoes like this. And it's just the coolest picture. And I told President Pistol, I said, I played with you, and I think the only side of the shoes that they saw of yours was the top side. This vertical jump was about three inches, I think, if I remember right. But you know, in that book, it chronicles these wonderful things that took place, but it also talks about the character of the man and the integrity that he brought to the table each and every day and what that meant. During that time, we know the basketball piece. Even in college, he was ranked as one of the top players in the country. And during that time in Anderson College's history, it was such a transformational piece of the sports side that Anderson College's men's basketball team began to schedule universities such as Notre Dame, Xavier, Cincinnati, North Carolina State, and others. So the prominence that took place is just, it can't be overstated, and what Mr. Wilson brought to the table and just made happen there. Johnny Wilson and his great friend Carl Erskine have used sports as a platform to be ambassadors of all that is good and right. There's none of us that would dispute that. There's just so much that's good and right there. Their example has allowed all of us to not only take great pride in them as fellow citizens, but also inwardly look at the qualities of grace, character, and integrity in ourselves. President Pistol reflected with me this week as to how Johnny Wilson elevated the profile of Anderson University in ways that even today provide a platform to lift up Christ and what Christian living can mean to a world desperately in need of examples of peace and grace. President Pistol also shared with me the easy decision it was for AU to be a major sponsor of this monument and this day that will continue for years to remind us of what greatness really looks like, and that we can all strive for those same character qualities that we're celebrating today. So, Johnny, on behalf of Anderson University, the entire Anderson University family, and President Pistol, I want to thank you for your goodness and the way that you've gone before us, and especially what you have done for this community and for all of us. God bless you each and every day.
Thank you, Jeff. Well, I told you earlier, you know, there are so many people to thank that I'd probably overlook a bunch of people, so forgive me. But I've met over the past several years that we've worked on this project, I've met a lot of wonderful people and gotten to know them and work with them. And one of them is Wilson. And from what I hear, he's probably as good an athlete as his brother Johnny. But let me introduce him to you. His name is Gene. Give him a hand. Thank you. I've also gotten to know a young fellow by the name of Terry Thompson. He's the school superintendent. You may have heard of him. You talk about a guy who says what he means and does what he says. Anderson, you got a keeper here. I mean, there is nothing that this man has, and the Anderson Community School Corporation School Board, there's nothing that he has said he's going to do that he did not do. Is Sam Alford here? Sam is, what are you, Sam?
A lot of people ask the same question. I'm here representing the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, of which we are extremely proud. I coached from 1975 to 1995 at Newcastle, and that was the golden heydays of Anderson. I had the Graves, I had the Lewises, I had the Johnsons. I had the Fullers. If that wasn't enough, I scheduled Highland for 20 years and went through the Gary family. And then because I was really dumb, I scheduled Madison Heights for 20 years and went through Tolbert and Robinson and Winston Morgan and that crew. And when I made my last trip out of Anderson, I told myself, I don't care if I ever go back to Anderson again. And when Chris May, the executive director of the Hall of Fame, called me, he said, there's a ceremony going on at Anderson. Would you like to go with me? I said, no. It's a 2-hour drive and up and 2 hours back. I don't think I'll make it with you. He said, well, it's honoring John Wilson. I said, what time and where do I go? Changed in a hurry. You've been told today all the good things about Mr. Wilson, which are all true. But on behalf of basketball coaches, I'm not just speaking for the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, but coaches all over the state of Indiana and beyond the state of Indiana look up to this man. Much deserved honor. And it's been mentioned today about how humble he is. He's the same way with us. I got to know Mr. Wilson a little bit while I was coaching at Newcastle through the boys club and through ball games. And then since I've retired, I've got to know him very well through the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, which he is still at his age he's not just a member, he's a very active member. And I've got to know him very well. And it just, anything I can do on behalf of coaches, anything I can do on behalf of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame to honor him, you don't have to ask a second time. He's a human being that it's been talked about today, how humble he is. It's been talked about how he spreads different things around. The biggest thing that John Wilson spreads is John Wilson spreads human love. And wherever he goes and whatever he does, he is an individual that, he kind of like the person they say that when he enters the room, everybody looks and everybody listens. And everybody is always interested to see what John Wilson has to say and what John Wilson is doing. And I might just say to Anderson, a compliment. This is a great way to honor this man. The turnout is spectacular. It's something very well deserved, but the town of Anderson's to be patted on the back. It's a great job of what you've done today. As I stand up here, I kind of feel like Custer. I've been surrounded by an awful lot of Indians today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And now for a special presentation as we near the end of our program. I will bring you Carl Erskine. Try to keep it under an hour, okay, Carl?
Thank you, Primus. Yeah, you can't imagine the emotion I've had today. Being an old Indian, being back at Anderson High School, and sitting in a place of honor with Johnny. My mind, they say when you come to the end of your life, your life flashes in front of you. It just has in the last few minutes when I've relived hearing about Johnny, remembering Johnny, who he and I played on Shadeland basketball team. And I don't have too many records left, but I do have one that's related to Shadeland School and Johnny Wilson. In the 6th grade, when we won the city championship in 1938-39, I was a head taller than Johnny Wilson, and I jumped center on that team. Nobody will beat that. Well, it is. It's hard to put into words what's happening here today. I see some of the coaches that used to coach here at this wonderful school. Norm Held is back here, a great coach for many years. Ray Estes was on his way to come from northern Indiana. He may be here. But there have been some great coaches. And Johnny and I benefited so much from some of these incidents. A coach will get more out of you than you think you got in you. A good teacher will do that. A good preacher, a good neighbor, a good parent. will get more out of you than you think you've got in you. Johnny and I, neither one would be here without people who've told us that and made us believe it. We were two skinny kids from the West Side, and I've kidded about this, but we were not good students. We made every team that we ever went out for, but we never made the honor roll. But we did carry a 4-point average in high school, 2 and 2. That's the truth. I can sum up my relationship with Johnny very simply. He's my brother without the blood. We were different. We looked different. We came from a different kind of background history, but we lived in the same neighborhood. We shared the same table many times at both houses. And it was, and we had this coach I wanted to mention, Charlie Cummings, was a tough hombre. He was not easy to play for. But when we quote people that we remember from the past, you always quote the people that were toughest on you. You don't think so at the time. Mr. Cummings used to meet us at the door of the old wigwam. Son, where are your books? Books. Your books. I know what you're making in school. You got homework. You go back and get your books out of your locker, or you cannot get in this gym. So we have to go back and get our books. So now practice is over. Mr. Cummings always waited at the door, and he gave us an orange and a vitamin pill. No, this kid, he was thinking about a lot beyond the basketball practice for these young kids. Now we're ready to go home, and we're ready to go out, and Mr. Cummings is waiting. Son, where are your books? Now you can't get out of the gym without your books. He taught us a lot. Well, today, Johnny, this is such a fantastic experience that you and I both can enjoy at our age, buddy, and that's something. And we have been close over many years. It's not unusual that Johnny's had great influence without being kind of a charismatic personality. Johnny's done it with a sweet, soft, straightforward, wonderful way. Incidentally, here's a gentleman, is the son of Pop Hedden, who was Johnny's coach. He's with us today. Fantastic. Johnny's probably going to mention him, but I met him earlier. Okay, Johnny, Coach Cummings has been deceased for a while, Charles Cummings. His son is living, Michael. When Michael was a little kid, he was in the wigwam playing while we were practicing. And he had a little fire truck. And he was always in the wrong place with that fire truck because we'd be on a fast break practice and he would be right under the basket in foul territory. And we're jumping over Mike and jumping over the... Johnny will remember that. Well, here is a letter that Mike has sent. His health's not good. He lives in Indianapolis, very successful businessman, CPA. But Michael wanted to speak on behalf of his father, our coach, Charlie Cummings. When I was 5 years old, riding my fire truck around a wigwam, little did I realize that my father, Charles Cummings, was coaching one of the most talented basketball players in Indiana high school history, Jumpin' Johnny Wilson. Johnny brought glory to the city of Anderson, especially when the Anderson Indians won the state championship in '46. John was a star of the team, surrounded by several good teammates. Unlike current basketball stars, John played football, baseball, and ran track. He would have played baseball in high school too because he was an outstanding baseball player. But he was too good in track. And the coach, Carl Bunge, would not let him play baseball. But Johnny's, he's all around. Incidentally, when I played 9 seasons with Jackie Robinson in the major leagues, he said to me one day, how's come this black and white thing doesn't bother you? I had 2 words, Johnny Wilson. I grew up with Johnny. What do you mean? There's no difference. What? It's not there. Anyway, my father always felt a special bond with John when they went beyond just being his coach. He certainly was proud of John's achievements through the years, including being elected Indiana High School Basketball Hall of Fame. Dad would say to family and friends, if John isn't voted into the Hall of Fame, then as far as I'm concerned, there's no Hall of Fame. It's only fitting and well-deserved, John, that he's being honored today. And it's signed with warmest regards, Michael Cummings. So indirectly, Johnny, your old coach has just spoken to you and me, and that's fantastic. Now, I have the honor of bringing out something that Bob Pensick, I think, is going to help me with, or maybe Primus. Johnny likes to play golf, and we play golf together. And there's one time when John and I sort of separate. It's when there's a short putt, and I'm waiting for him to give it to me. Johnny has lockjaw. He wants me to putt this 8-inch putt out. Come on, John. Well, standing here beside me is a full set with a beautiful golf bag. Johnny, of new golf clubs, brand new, tailor-made, and on it says, Jumpin' Johnny Wilson. Now, true to form, we had big ideas about this golf bag. Yeah, Bob Pensick and I and Primus, we had a whole list of stuff that ought to go on it. Oh, he's Hall of Famer, he's a 46 champion, he's an All-American at Anderson University, played for the Globetrotter. We had it all, we had this whole list of beautiful. Johnny says, no, thank you. Just Jumpin' Johnny Wilson, that's all. That's what's on the golf bag. But Johnny, we know all the rest anyway. Now, so you won't run out of golf balls, I have a certificate here presented to you along with the golf bag at Dick's Sporting Goods for a $500 gift certificate. And I'll be glad to go with you when we since we're brothers, I'm glad you. So Johnny, this is yours, buddy. That's that big stack right there and this. And from an old buddy of yours, how could you imagine having a friend, listen, almost 80 years. Almost 80 years. You can sort things out when you're late in life and see what really counted. Johnny, you really counted. God bless you. That's a
Thank you,
certificate.
Carl. Thank you. I think Carl just took my notes and my program and everything. It's okay. He's a good guy. Do you think I should have the man speak?
Thank you. Thank you. You know, Carl, I appreciate these clubs, Bob, but the only thing about it, Carl and I play a lot of golf together, and he's a better golfer than I am, and I asked him for give me some strokes, and he agrees. And the thing about it, I'll get maybe a 4 on the hole, he'll give me a stroke, he'll give me a 5. So that's the type of friend I got in him. But I really appreciate all of you coming out. It's a tremendous thing to have this many people. And if you look around, probably there's less than 25 people that ever saw me shoot a basketball. All of you are too young. But I do have, I know one of my ex-teammates on the 46 state championship team is here, Bob Spearman. He's here somewhere. And I don't know if Bob Ritter was able to make it or not. But as I drove in, well, I didn't drive in, my grandson drove me in the parking lot I felt real good because 4 of my former classmates were there. So that means that I got some people here that did remember me, and which I enjoy having them there. I don't know if Holly Bryant made it or not, but I talked to Hallie. Hallie played with Addicts, then he played at Indiana University, and he played with the Globetrotters. And I was hoping that he could get here. Holly used to have one of the greatest one-man shows in the history of basketball. And I guess he was telling me when I talked to him, he was having some back problems, so he didn't make it. But another one of my friends, and I wish I had time for him to come up and talk, and it's Bob Kendrick. Now, there's one statue here that I'll see anytime I come in the building, but Bob sees 10 statues every time he goes into his office. Bob is the head of the Negro Baseball Museum down in Kansas City, where they have 10 statues of men that were far greater than me that he gets to see, include one of them that everybody knows was Satchel Paige. And but Bob is here, and I'm really glad that he came. And the other thing that Bob invites me and John Jr. to Kansas City each year to play in their golf tournament. And their golf tournament has probably 30 foursomes playing, and I really enjoy it down there. But I really enjoy having you people here to come. I feel really honored that the city of Anderson was able to do something like this, and I want to thank Bishop James Streeter and Reverend Ollie Dixon and what's that little guy named? Primus Mutri. Those are the 3 people that really made this thing start, made it go. And then the people of Anderson did a good job for my sake of getting the money up to pay for it. And Rydan did a great job. He's a great sculptor and tremendous. But as I said, I really am glad to see all of you out here today. Now I have with me also all of my family. Of course, the oldest of the family, which is he's a few years younger than me, is was mentioned as my brother Gene. But then my 3 children are here. My I don't know, probably 15 grandchildren and 15 or 20 great-grandchildren are here, which makes me feel very good that they are here to see something like this. And they come all the way from Arizona, all the way across the country to D.C. So it covers quite a bit of the country. And I'm really glad to see them here to be able to enjoy this day with me. And it is a great day to enjoy. And I don't know how really to thank all of you for showing up, but I do appreciate it. And as Primus mentioned that James Warner is going to have another event on July the 24th. It'll be held right here, and where that, I glad I'm able to be here because, since I'm only 28 years old. No, but the other thing is it's going to be good about that day is that they're going to that day honor Liberty Christian and LaPel High School for winning the state championships. That is the first time that 2 schools from Madison County has won the championship in 1 year. Now, they have the High School Athletic Association has a banquet the Friday before the tournament, and all the teams that are in, plus all the schools in Indianapolis are there, and they invited me to come down And they invited me for one reason, because they felt that I was the oldest Mr. Basketball still around. But I had a chance to take a picture with the lapel team and also the Liberty Christian, and I wished them both well. And I told the Liberty Christian team, I said, man, you know, it's been 70 years since Anderson has had a championship. Bring us one. And boy, they did a great job of it, and really proud of them. But as I said, I'm really glad to see all my family here and all my friends that are here. And since I'm younger than most, I'm a little bit older than most of you. But Carl did mention one person was here, and that was Tom Hedden. Tom Hedden is the son of my college coach, Pop Hedden. I had really three people that helped me along as far as basketball, getting a chance to be seen, is that Mr. Cummings had me around for, I was noted in Indiana. And Pop Hedden made it possible for me to be known around the United States. And that Abe Saperstein made it possible for me to be known around the world. So I give those three people a lot of credit for some of the things that I was able to accomplish. And it was really great. Now, Tommy did come up to me and tell me, he says, I got a lot of pictures and things that Pop had that I want you to see. And also, he said, I got a butterscotch pie. Now, the thing about it is that I told him once, I wanted him to hear it again, he still owes me about 20 butterscotch pies. What happened was that when I was playing at Anderson College, Pop's wife told me that every time I scored 20 points in a game, she would bake me a butterscotch pie. Well, she owed me still about 20 pies. But she gave me several, and they were very, very good. And also here, and I just can't go without mentioning them, Miss Smith, Lil Smith spoke about Bill Smith, who played for me, and then he said he coached Broad Ripple to a state championship in Indiana a few years ago. But I do have here with me 4 or 5 or even more ex-Woodchucks. Fellas I coached at Wood High School, and several other students that were at Wood. And also there was 4 members of my team at Malcolm X College in Chicago that drove down here to be with me today. So I really, really thankful and happy that I'm able to be remembered by these guys, because we had some great times both places, and I really enjoyed it. And I know it's hot out here, and I know most of you want to get home and think about that golf. The golf tournament starts, about I got to go home and take off this stuff and get on my golf stuff. And then the good thing about today, they're playing what is called a scramble, 4-man team, and Erskine won't give me any strokes today because we're on the same team. But as I said, I really appreciate all of you being here, and I appreciate Mr. Thompson for allowing this statue to be placed here at Anderson High School. And someone mentioned, I don't know who it was, that I come to some of the games. I have not missed very many games in the last 3 or 4 years since I've been back. And I got another friend here, and I'm disappointed because his wife didn't come. That's Joe Benisi. Joe, him and his wife take me to every road game. So and you know, he buys the tickets most of the time too. But as I said, I'm really glad to see all of you here, and I appreciate you coming, and I hope to see you back here on the 24th of July, and to not necessarily to honor me, but to honor Liberty Christian High School and also LaPel High School. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Okay, here's what we're going to do to close this out. Uh, I want to bring up Ken Redane. Ken is the local artist who did this sculpture, as we call it. Johnny kept calling it a statue, and Ken doesn't like that. He's become a good friend. I've watched him work, and I don't know, Ken, whether I'm stepping on your toes or not, but I think this thing from the toe to the top, to the outstretched hand, is about 9 feet.
Yeah,
It also weighs about a quarter of a ton.
I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I've watched him work in the studios in Yorktown, and it is art. It is not just a photograph or something like that.
I just wanted to mention, there's so many people to thank, but I want to mention this site. I designed this site on paper, but I didn't build it. Jerry Fredericks and his company built it, and I thought they did a wonderful job. And Diane Fredericks, who works with Dr. Thompson as an administrative assistant. Are you here, Diane? I understand you planted all these flowers that I've been stepping on, trying to get the veil on here, but I'm so sorry. I no sooner stepped on one, and Dr. Thompson says, "Oh, look at another flower stepped on," and I felt, and I was trying to avoid it so much, but it wasn't killed. It just kind of gave it a little bit of a slight injury. We're going to unveil this in a way that I hope we don't ruin any more flowers. I'm going to go and untie things and kind of get it started, and then I'm going to give these three gentlemen, Terry, Carl, and Primus, a hem of the veil. It's kind of like the hem of a garment. And we'll present it to you. Oh, and I did want to say, too, of all the people that are here today, I thank you. Many are my friends. There may be some relatives out there, at least one granddaughter. But the person that I was hoping that would be here, who got to meet Johnny and immediately liked Johnny and had an affinity for him, was my wife, Lynn. And unfortunately, Lynn battled cancer for almost a year, and she didn't make it to the unveiling today. But I'm thinking about her too as I unveil this piece, because she was right there behind me and encouraging me all the way on this progress of doing this. And she had a real good, loving feeling for Johnny.
Thank you very much. You can approach and look at the statue and whatever. I think Terry has arranged some tours of the school. So if you want to see Anderson High, go right ahead. And have a nice day.